If you want to build yourself a $100 gaming PC, then today's video will show you exactly how you can do just that. Now, in 2021, we are faced with the challenge of prices rising, especially when it comes to our little friend, the graphics card, where we are seeing some of these cards being priced at quite ridiculous levels, but then we're seeing cards like this, the GTX 750, being priced really well. Now, this was a local deal that we got here. It was a 750 low profile, and I picked it up for 30 Aussie dollars. And it came with another GTX 750 that I got, which was the same model, but that had a bigger profile bracket on it. Now, when you're looking for a graphics card, if you're looking to fit it in something like this desktop that we're going to be using here today, this is a small form factor PC, and essentially a lot of small form factor PCs will carry the requirement of needing a low profile graphics card if you wish to put the side panel back on. If you don't want to put the side panel back on, sure, the PC will look a little bit messier, but at least you'll have some options. But in today's video, we're going to be utilizing the power of this GTX 750 low profile right here and putting it in this 4th gen OEM. Now, I picked this up on a local deal for $50. It came with 8 gigabytes of RAM and also has a 4th gen i5, where the only thing we really need to do after this is add in an SSD and we should have a complete gaming system. Now, the limitations of our 4th gen HP is that it's a proprietary system in some regards, meaning that the power supply and the power supply connectors will need to be changed if we want to put this in a bigger case, especially one with RGB. But have no fear, I have already done a video doing just that, which I'll put the link to up here if you've got a little bit more money to spend. But if you are on a strict budget for $100, then let's clean this thing up and take you guys through a simple process of getting something like this and then playing some easy to play titles, where the focus of today's video will be Valorant. If you want to get rid of this annoying activate Windows message, then today's video sponsor SCD Keys has you covered for as little as $12 US. After you enter that coupon code BFTYC, you can cop yourself a legit single end user license today. Links in the description below. So putting this thing together is ridiculously easy. All you have to do is get your low profile GPU and just pretty much put it in this top slot here. Click it in, get your SSD, plug that in, and you get yourself a gaming PC. Just turn it on, install Windows, and you are now good to go. And the funny thing is, we've already tested out the temperatures out of the box like this, and they're not too bad. The CPU with a 5-strike physics score is going to about 53 degrees, and then the GPU is going to about 60 degrees. However, since I do actively flip PCs after I'm finished with them, what I'll be doing with this PC is taking the CPU cooler off and also taking apart the GPU and applying some fresh thermal paste to both and cleaning it up a little bit to make it look like it's brandy new. So before we jump into the cleaning, I will give off a warning with this cooler right here, and that is it's got some ridiculously sharp edges on the cooler itself. So if you guys are working with OEMs, do be careful not to just delve straight in. I've cut myself really bad in the past on a Dell system, and whenever I'm working on OEMs, I always take it just that little bit slower just to make sure I'm not going to get done by sharp edges. So a lot of the times when you pick up these X-server PCs, you're going to find that they don't come with either a hard drive at all, because the people who are essentially getting them in have to make sure that the data is wiped, and they cannot let those drives go back to the public. And the second thing is that they usually got the drive cage removed, because they just quickly take the drive cages out, destroy the hard drives with the actual drives. But what we can do here is, especially if we've got an SSD, is that we can just get some double-sided tape and just essentially tape this thing down. And it's gonna save us so much time and effort, as well as still get the end result, because these SSDs don't weigh pretty much anything at all. We can pretty much just pop that down and have some fun. Easy. So this HP Prodesk right here, if you guys are on an extreme budget and you want to put something together and you can find one of these for cheap, which when I checked on eBay, there's actually a few of these going for really cheap prices, and they include RAM, and even some of them include a hard drive. At these prices, it is a really good buy in the current climate. However, the problem is getting the graphics card, and in this case, we picked up this GTX 750 locally on a very good deal. At least when I look at the market, there is a GTX 750 on eBay going for over 90 USD. And the crazy thing about that is I remember years and years ago in Japan, I bought a Galax low profile GTX 750. I think it was a TI as well. And I got that roughly for $100 US, I believe. And that was brand new, and that was over 6 years ago. So you can just see the contrast between how much pent-up demand there is for graphics cards. And in fact, I would dare say that graphics cards are in one massive bubble right now. So if something's in a bubble and you need something within that bubble, try to get the smallest component and take it out of that bubble, which in this case would be something like a GTX 750. Even some old 6 series cards will get you by until this whole bubble pops. So you may be sitting there and you're like, Brian, what if the bubble doesn't pop? What if this just keeps going on forever and our favorite governments just keep rolling the printer? What do we do then? Well, in that case, then your wages should go up to pretty much match that of the bubble pricing, and there wouldn't be any problem anyway. And although that could be a scenario, it doesn't actually justify the pricing right now. So bubbles aside, what we've got right here is anything but a bubble. We've got raw price performance packed in to a beautifully small compact PC. And this PC honestly surprised me beyond my expectations in a few different ways. First of all, when we were playing games, we only got 120 watts usage from the wall. The second thing was it was very quiet. In fact, I could not hear this thing at all. Even though the GPU temperatures did creep up a little bit, they were still well within the range of being fine for everyday gaming. And even if they went over 80 degrees, we could still then just take the side panel off and put an extra fan on this thing if we needed to. However, the best thing was the FPS. When it came to loading up GTA 5, even though it was 1080p normal settings, it still played the game at over 100 FPS, and it had smooth 0.1% and 1% lows. That's basically the worst frames were still very high, considering what you may be used to if you're playing on a low-end laptop or a low-end machine. And then we move over to Valorant, and that was the exact same story. Over 100 FPS, 1080p, native resolution, and we're getting great 1% and 0.1% lows. Now these smooth frame rates, I do start to attribute these in part to the recent custom Windows ISO install we did. I'll put the link up here if you guys want to check that out. It works great on budget systems like this with only 8 GB of RAM, and especially if you want to play some multiplayer titles, those popular ones with a big player base. However, up until now, we've done nothing but praise this budget system, but I will give out some warnings, and that is the first thing, don't go with a very high powered graphics card on this system. And that's because we've got a power supply here that's really only rated for about 250 watts max. Anything over that, your system will just simply shut off. But before that, you will get a bit of a warning, and that is you will hear the fan on the power supply start spinning up to ridiculously loud levels. The second thing is too, this is small form factors, so if you want to use this directly without doing a case swap, then you will be limited to a low profile GPU. If you're looking for a graphics card that will fit this, you can just type in usually low profile, or you can type in SFF, which means small form factor, which is exactly what this PC is. The final thing to be careful of is if you're looking for one of these PCs, make sure it's the small form factor version and not the mini ITX version, because there are some mini ITX versions out there and they just simply won't fit a graphics card at all. But if all goes well, then you should have something that performs like this, and you should be able to put it together for an extremely good budget. And then after that, if you get this thing and you put it together, you can even give it some tech yes lovin', and that's where you just clean the thing up and you make it look spotless or brandy new. Depends. If you're living in Japan, it's brandy new, but if you're living elsewhere, just spotless. It'll be fine. And with all that aside, if you guys enjoyed today's video, be sure to hit that like button and also let us know in the comments section below, what was your favorite part of today's build? Love reading those thoughts and opinions as always, just like this question of the day here, which comes from Spank. And they ask, what are these game settings? Ultra low? So does that mean you turned everything off? And they're referring to our comparison here between the Intel and AMD CPUs, the recent launch of the 11th gen. I'll put the link to that video up here. And basically we do crank all the settings down, and that's basically to take the strain off the GPU and put as much of that on the CPU. So when we're comparing the CPU's FPS, we're pretty much just stressing the CPUs. And so in turn, what you get is FPS that relates to the max performance of that particular CPU. Now, of course, it does come down to how well the game's optimized as well, how many cores and threads the game's optimized for, but those things aside, the faster CPU will generally perform with higher FPS. Hope that answers that question. And with that aside, if you stayed this far and you're enjoying that tech, yes content, be sure to hit that sub button, ring that bell, and I'll see you next time. Peace out for now. Bye.
We're going to have to act if we want to build a different world.